In America, they have Pulawski Day, but today you're going to have Pulawski Day. Know what I mean? No? You'll have to watch the episode to find out. Yes, with me in the studio is Peter Pulawski. Peter, how do I say your name properly?
Yeah. Peter Pulawski, or yes.
Pulawski. So it's Peter, not Piotr?
Peter or Peter in Danish.
Or Peter.
Or Piotr.
Because Peter has quite the mixed and exotic background, and we're going to go into that. But before we do, I must declare an interest, because Peter is the person who quite regularly gets me, I don't want to say drunk, but a little bit sozzled and merry might be the case, because it's to Peter I go to buy my local wines. Isn't that right?
Yeah.
That's how we know each other. And we used to know each other from the Chamber of Commerce, for that matter.
Also that a little, yes. I want to be known as the wine merchant.
The wine merchant. That sounds like a badass name. Right, so Peter, Piotr, Peter, yeah. Let's go back into your past and how it is that you speak such fantastic English, and how it is you came back to Poland, in fact.
The short story is that I was conceived by a Pole in Poland, born by a Swede in Sweden, raised in Denmark, and living in Poland since 1991. So that's the short, and that includes all the elements you asked about.
Well, that's exotic from a European perspective, at least. And now, so you're Polish, essentially. You feel Polish, or?
No, I'd say this way, and that's something I feel since I was about 16, 18 years old, that my temper, my basic character is Swedish. So restrained, looking from cool from a distance, but the logical thinking, my senses are Danish, but my heart and my blood is Polish.
Oh, that's
so. So I'm a tri-national patriot. So I always have these problems when people talk about patriotism. What am I?
So have you ever had a moment where you thought, am I really even Polish? Because you have these allegiances, if you want to.
I feel Polish, and I feel I have the right to discuss on these issues, especially when they get a little hot. I then try to give it another perspective.
Does that ever happen in Poland? First I heard about it. But presumably you've also had moments where you felt culture clash because you have the Swedish, Danish.
Yes, yes.
Can we talk about that
yes.
today?
Yeah, we can do it.
Let's do that. All right, well, so you moved to Poland in 1991. 1991, so...
Pioneer.
Pioneer. Peter is one of these people we're going to talk to about the Wild West days when literally anything was possible.
Wild East.
Wild East, indeed. Well, I suppose it's west if you're coming from. It doesn't really matter. What was it like when you came at that particular time? What were your first memories of coming over to live for full time?
It was very. It's not chaotic. Maybe more a frantic, intensive. A lot of things were not established. You had to create a lot of things. With courts, with customers, with police, with so on. You were co-creating the new reality in Poland, you could say. So if you had the invention, if you had the guts, you could really make something big. But for sure, it was lots of fun, challenging experience, turmoil, or you could almost say.
I ask this question every time, but I have to ask it, which is, why would you pick Poland when you could just stay in wonderful, comfortable, luxurious, socialist Sweden, you know, high spending, welfare, all those wonderful things?
They're not socialist, but
well, you know,
social.
High social.
No, the thing was, in 1991, I was 26 years old. I just finished my studies, and this was a completely new perspective. I didn't have a family yet. My brothers were into some business and they invited me, and I said that I can always fall back on Denmark because I'm a Danish citizen. So I just jumped into it, left everything I had, sold my apartment and moved to Poland, especially when I had met my wife and got married. It was an easy decision to make, and I have actually never contemplated going back yet. Maybe with age it will change, but Poland is also changing.
So what we're going to get now is Peter's unique perspective on these last, actually it's 30 years,
yes,
coming up on 30 years of change. And boy, Has Poland changed?
It has.
Let's talk about the first company that you worked in or set up in those early 90s.
As I said, my brothers, they had a company selling computer equipments. They started in 1989, 1990. And traveling around in Poland in those days, they got requirements and questions of anything else which was in need in Poland. The old state-owned import-export agency, state-owned, they were simply dismantled from day to day, and from day to day the private initiative had to fix all these things. So the first things I was asked to fix, to source for the Polish market was food. Because with wine, selling wine in Denmark in the 80s, I had a connection with the supermarkets and warehouses and so on. So we actually delivered to Polish over 2 years coffee, washing powder, rice, and worked on a lot of other issues like sexy underwear and toys and so on. But the big
children's toys.
Yeah, children. Yeah.
Thought you were connecting the two, the underwear and the toys.
No,
so leave that there.
I'm a little bit quick maybe. So, but the big product which I evidently found in Australia looking for wine was beef offals. Beef tripe, flaki.
A popular dish on the Polish.
Yes. So in 1990, in May, we got a sample on dried ice to Copenhagen airport. I had to take it out of Denmark and then smuggle it into Poland, and that was done by 2 kilos of Gevalia coffee and a 6-pack of Carlsberg. And then they just switched me into Poland. I went to a processing plant in Bydgoszcz, and they placed an order for 500 tons on the spot. 500 tons, that's 15 container loads, full container loads of frozen beef stomachs from Australia to Gdynia to Bydgoszcz.
So then you actually had to go out and make that happen?
Yes, we were doing it from our office just outside of Copenhagen, so it's all where the telexes. Even the faxes didn't work in Poland at that time, so we had to do a lot of telexes and try to imagine making this long densely typed text on a telex to Bank Handlowy to arrange letter of credits and so on. So it was
right now a millennial who doesn't understand the word the whole time is just freaking out at the thought. Before fax, you probably don't even know what a fax machine was.
But even to call the client or anybody, you needed sometime to do 25, 30 call-ups before you get a line.
Yeah.
So you could sometimes just to make one business conversation, conversation, it could take you half an hour to 1 hour just to get in touch.
But when you were in front of the decision maker and they bought the business was happening that quickly.
Yes.
I have this feeling that sometimes decision making has actually gone slower than it used to.
No, the decision making is not slower, but there's lots more elements taking into account, lots more offers, searching, checking specifics and so on.
Okay, so what happens to that company then? Where did it go? How many more stomachs, cow stomachs did you sell? The Kings of Tripe, as I believe.
In 1993, I switched with my brothers. I took over the computer peripherals business, machines for cutting vinyl, making sign making, so on. And my brothers took over the flaki business, and at most they were up to 4,000 tons a year. So it's more like 250 container loads a year of flaki. So we were the biggest. Yeah, we were the biggest importer of flaki to Poland in the middle of the 90s.
You're talking to the king of tripe, or one of the kings of tripe. All right, so respect to this man. So right, did you get high on your own supply? Were you eating the tripe?
Yes, I love it. It's actually one of my favorite dishes, to anticipate one of your questions.
Yeah, exactly. I've never tried it personally, but maybe one day you can get a little tin from back in there. Do you have any of the old products? Like,
no.
Because that would probably be worth a little bit of money now. Like
I don't know. Item. Eatable? I don't know.
Probably not. No, you won't find this kind of stuff in Peter's shop that he's selling now. But you will find a whole bunch of tasty stuff. But before we get there, let's go through your next.
Yeah, that business lasted until '99, when my brothers, he switched to other products and the beef drive. I was with the computer peripherals and I sold the business to a Swedish guy. And he would have an interesting thing because I speak Swedish. I studied 3 years in the University of Lund, and I thought that I was on talking level, and we talked the same language and they had the same terminology and so on. But it turned out that my business experience in Poland and his being Scandinavian, we had big problems understanding each other.
Ah, this is interesting. So what was it that...
for example, that getting a leasing contract for a client to buy one of our machines would here take sometimes 2 to 3 months, even for big stock holding companies, because you have this problem, or had the problem about the certificate of having paid your taxes, income taxes and so on. So that took a lot of time. In Sweden or Denmark, if you want to sell anything in leasing, you just contact the credit information, the business intelligence company, and in 1-2 days you would have an okay or a negative to give a loan or give a leasing contract. And this Swedish owner of the company, me being the CEO, he couldn't understand this difference. Or for example, he couldn't understand that in order to import something at the customs, the American invoice needed a rubber stamp and an original signature. And the Americans, they didn't know what a rubber stamp was. And then the goods costing sometimes tens of thousands of dollars could sit a couple of weeks in the customs in Poland waiting for the Americans to issue a real invoice.
Yeah.
And this Swedish owner, he didn't understand it, and we had big what do you call it, frictions and long discussions, and eventually in 2001 I left him. Simply I couldn't stand more of this pressure, and then I asked my wife whether she would accept to become shareholder in our own company selling wine.
Ah, now this is where the story gets super interesting. This is the bit over, computers is one thing, flaki is very much another, but wine is delicious. Because, as you said earlier, everyone has an opinion on wine.
Yes, of course, yes. Especially at that time, I felt in 2001 that Poland will for sure become a member of the European Union, and that would be a good moment to start with wine, because I thought like this: before World War II, Denmark and Poland was very comparable economically, socially and so on. They were competing in their main exports on the same client, meaning England, for butter and bacon. So I said that eventually Poland has the potential of reaching the same economical and social living standards as Denmark. And if Denmark has the highest consumption of grape wine globally, among non-producing countries, non-wine producing countries, Poland has a chance to catch up. So going from 3 liters per capita per annum in Poland, they might go in the direction of the Danish 35 liters per capita per annum. So, and now the consumption is coming close to 4 liters in Poland. So there's still a long way to go.
Still a long way to go, but it is growing.
It is. It's certainly growing. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Let's. I remember vividly. I was in Poland in 2007, and a woman in Żabka, or it wasn't a Żabka, it was a Gribna, that said, "Is martini a wine?" And the person behind the counter said, "Yes, it is." And she thought she was buying a bottle of wine for a birthday present. There's general lack of knowledge.
Certainly there is lots of people who don't touch grape wine at all, except maybe once a year at New Year's Eve when they get a glass of bubbly.
Yeah. Just to be absolutely clear, neither Peter or I have consumed any wine because he didn't bring any with him. So I'm going to have to go down his shop, which is very close to my flat, and buy a bottle later. But you love the subject, and this is why I enjoy you buying my wine from Peter, which I highly recommend, because he really does know his grapes.
Wine is a thing which civilizes and socializes. It's a very thankful subject. It's not offensive, even for people who don't drink. They like to talk about wine and why they don't drink. So actually, when I sell wine, of course, the product is very important. And the quality, but I always say that in order to sell wine, you sell confidence, you sell yourself. So you need to be a good man, you need to be able to make a good conversation, get some trust, and then you sell the wine.
I see, it was all a sales technique. I knew he was up to something. Let's talk about Polish wines for a second. Yeah. Is there a good Polish wine? This is a question I often
There
ask
are
myself.
certainly more and more coming up. I would say that at least 10 wineries are producing wine which is worth the price. The problem is that the prices still are not low enough to be easy sold. But on this other side, it's a problem of scale.
Yeah.
So if you only have a couple of hectares and you only produce 5,000–10,000 bottles a year, one winery, one equipment, production equipment, it must cost something more. But it's a process. Poland, like England, also has a bigger production. So Poland will come.
Don't get. I won't even go on to the subject of English champagne, which, by the way, is really rather nice. Let's talk about what you've learnt then over this quite long period of running your own business. First of all, how have you changed? What do you think you've learnt over this period?
There's a lot to be told on this. We have already addressed one subject: the difference between Polish employer and management culture as opposed to Scandinavian, and even more to German, French or English, American business culture, management culture. And here you really need to understand, it's on the surface it seems as small issues, but in reality they can be the reason why you can or cannot make a business become successful.
Yes.
And very often I say it's the problem of too much goodwill. Good intentions are not enough, because I just to put it in perspective, many of my employees, they probably think, I hope they think so, Peter is a nice guy. I like the way he manages the company. I like the way he treats me as an employee. I want to help him. I will not do as he expects me to do it. I will do it my way in order to do it even better.
I've had this thought in previous businesses, so I can feel this. Yeah.
So that one is. Another issue is that after 30 years in business, with some quite some successes, but also lots of challenges and even some what do you call it, going bust or something.
Let's call it lows, highs and lows.
Lows. I've come to the conclusion that you need to be very honest with what you know and what you want in business, personally. Of course, you need to listen to others, but you must be very wary, look very much out for falling in the trap that somebody looks like an expert or somebody wants to help you and changes your initial intentions, your plans. It's also, again, very small changes in approach, changes in your personal business plans, but it can act as a domino effect, just wiping out everything you've been preparing.
Yes. So, I tell you, Peter, I find it fascinating, because if only you knew all of this stuff before you realised that hindsight is a wonderful thing. That's why you're watching HiPolska, because you're getting the hindsight of business people who've been through the highs and down through the lows. Now, Peter, we're running out of time, but I do want to do our quick fire. After that awesome insight, I want to do our quick fire round. Favourite place in Poland?
Krakow.
Interesting. Favourite place in Krakow?
The small streets between the medieval buildings. Probably, I don't recall the name of the street, but going from the Wawel to the city square, parallel to the Grodzka.
Yes, Wąska,
something like that.
Please write to us in the comments if you know the particular street that Peter's referring to. Favourite season of the year in Poland?
Spring, coming now.
Oh, isn't that wonderful? The sun on your face for the first time in months. Favourite place other than Krakow?
The bed, cuddling with my wife.
I will never know whether that is as good as Peter says, but I think we can take your word for it. Favourite food other than flaki from the King of Flaki?
If it's Polish food, bigos.
Do you do bigos?
Yes. Yes.
Invite at Peter's place to find out whether bigos can have.
Maybe sometime I'm open a bar or a restaurant.
Well, I can recommend his olives, that's for sure. Peter, you've been a fantastic guest. We
Thanks.
have unfortunately run out of time. I'd like to maybe have you come back and talk a little bit more about your wine.
I'm always ready.
And perhaps we can do it later on in the evening.
Yes.
And have a little sample as well. Peter, thank you very much.
Thanks.
I'll see you next time for the next episode of HiPolska, where we talk to fascinating people who've led fascinating lives in the fascinating country of Poland. Make sure you share this episode wherever you find it, my friend, be it on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, or any one of these modern new things. Fortnite, is that a thing? I don't know. See you next time for HiPolska.